What's going on, you guys? Theo here with the big review, back yet again with another King of Fighters Allstar video, and in today's video we are going to be giving our initial thoughts and reactions to the newest guild raid boss to be added into the King of Fighters Allstar, which is of course going to be Nightmare Geese. We're going to talk about each one of these difficulties and just give a brief overview of what we are going to be dealing with as far as our newest guild raid is concerned, and then we're also going to jump into a little pull session that I had over the weekend. But before we do all of those things, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe. We are officially on the way to 2,000 subs, so make sure you guys go ahead and do that, and we'll go ahead and jump into today's video. Now, before we go ahead and enter the expert difficulty and I show you guys what there is to see as far as this newest boss's movements and his different attacks, we're going to go ahead and break down the different rewards as well as the different difficulties. Now, I did do a post yesterday on my community tab, as well as a post in the Discord and on the Reddit, so if you guys did not see those, I'll go ahead and break this information down for all of you on video here. But basically, each one of these difficulties is going to require a different dot this time around, so we're not just alternating a couple of different dots with this particular boss. Now, on easy, you're going to be looking for shock. On normal, you're going to be looking for bleed damage. On hard mode, you're going to be looking for starlight. On expert, you're going to be looking for poison, which is an interesting one that we'll talk about briefly here. And then on lunatic, which we do not have unlocked yet, you are also going to need shock damage. Now, as far as the reward boxes for these are concerned, the reward mileage is pretty much going to be the same as what we've been seeing with Omega Rugal. So if you get a minimum of 408.24 million damage, you will get this level 7 box on the expert difficulty, and this is actually going to be able to yield you double attack shock stones, which is really cool that they have these in here. These are particularly tough to get, so it'll be interesting to go through here, and hopefully the RNG treats you right and you get the ones that you need for whatever shock-based character you have, especially since shock will be very important for this newest guild raid boss. Now, the way that this works as far as the change from the expert to the lunatic, if we take a look here, because of course we noticed that in the volume 7 boxes we were getting the double attack shock R stones, but on lunatic, if we do a minimum of 714.42 million damage, we will be able to upgrade to these volume 8 boxes, and these are actually going to be adding the bleed R stones. So pretty much the difference there from expert to lunatic for the 1 key or the 2 key scenario is going to be getting the bleed stones. So bleed and shock are going to be the main stones for this particular guild boss, so pretty cool stuff overall. If we move on down here to hard mode and take a step down to the volume 5 boxes here, you will notice that these are also going to have your R stones for your shock damage, so very, very nice. However, do notice that the pool does get a little bit diluted with some of these silver stones as well, and that goes and trickles its way down to the rest of these as you go, and these get less and less valuable, just like we saw with Omega Rugal. So those are pretty much going to be the damage mileages as well as what we get in those reward boxes. Again, pretty cool. I could definitely use some double attack shock R stones myself for several different characters, so it'll be pretty nice to be able to get those now. Now, as far as this new boss, now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a run on expert. We're going to talk about him briefly, and this entire week we are going to be doing plenty of different videos on this content and giving you guys different breakdowns and different information, tips and tricks and guides on this boss once I have a firm grasp on him myself. But what I want to go ahead and do is just give you guys some initial reactions once we get into a run, and I'm also going to give you guys a few brief tips here at the beginning, and I'm not going to get too deep in the woods. I'm not going to be trying to do a guide as this stuff just dropped a few hours ago, but I'm going to give you guys a few little tips. So we're talking about expert here, and of course with expert we need poison, right? So with poison, this can be pretty tough. I saw a lot of people talking about it yesterday. There are a lot of characters in the game that do have poison. However, it really comes down to looking for the things that you would normally be needing for guild raid, which is going to be characters that preferably have a lot of really good multi-hits, the characters that are going to be able to apply multiple dots, so on and so forth. Those are going to be the types of characters typically that are going to be really good at shredding shield, and therefore are going to be a little bit better than a character that can't shred shield. that really you would just be dropping in to apply whatever dot it is you need, and then swapping them out for whatever character you're using as your shield shredder. It's always nice when you have a character that can do both, but with dots such as these, it can be kind of hard because those pools do get a little bit thin. But with poison, fortunately, it does have a few good options, but there is a really big drastic drop off from the top. And so I'll kind of give you guys a few that I recommend, and then we'll go ahead and get into this run. Now, there's going to be two different trains of thought here, and honestly, I'm leaning towards the train of thought that would be just using a poison striker with a really strong team of SS or BS characters, or just whatever the strongest team that you have in general is. However, if you are going to be using a designated poison character, my recommendation to all of you guys right off the bat is going to be Dancer Elizabeth. The reason why I am recommending Dancer Elizabeth over the rest of the field is because Dancer Elizabeth, if you guys have never tried her on the Omega Rugal Lunatic difficulty, just to kind of try her out and see how she does. On Shield Shred, she is phenomenal. Now, she does technically need to hug the boss pretty well, and with Geese, that can be a little bit tough, especially with the way that he is structured. However, with her, if you are wanting a top-tier Shield Shredder for this poison dot, she's as close as they get. So really, with this one, I do recommend her over the rest of the characters available. A lot of people probably have her, as she was a character that was recently available, and so she is going to be a little bit easier to build as well, because you do not need dupes for her. You can just make invitations. So if you need an easy solution and you have her laying around residually from the 7 Deadly Sins collaboration, she is definitely the character I recommend the most. I think if you're a player that has never used her on Guild Raid, you would be pretty surprised by how well she can do on the shield. Again, I personally think that you might as well just go for strikers with poison, or for really any of these dots in general so far, but it's still too early to tell. So if you need a really good poison character to use on your team, I do highly recommend Dancer Elizabeth. She's probably my favorite, and I really do think that out of everybody, she is going to be the best option available if you need a character that is just going to do more for you than just applying the dot and then needing to swap out. But there are other options out there, and there's more options than what I have here. I'm not going to be doing a comprehensive list by any stretch of the imagination, but you can use any of these characters here. You can use some of these characters as strikers. These are really going to be some of your best poison options. Other characters out there that you can use is, of course, you can use Goro, and then, of course, you also have other options out there as well. A character such as Lin is another really good example of a character that you could use on the actual team or as a striker, but I really do think that you're better off using all these characters as strikers for this. I don't think that you should be using a lot of these poison characters on your actual team lineup. There's several different reasons as to why, but I really do think that the way the meta is going to form itself with Geese Howard here is that we are probably going to find ourselves using these poison characters and the shock characters, but probably to a lesser extent with the shock characters, being that there's more high quality there. I think that these are going to end up being destined to be strikers for this, and that's okay. Now, as far as what I'm going to do with this run, I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to go ahead and use a team that is going to be doing a little bit of both. However, I am going to be using my poison character on my main team lineup. Now, like I said, I do think that you're better off using these as strikers, but for the purposes of just showing you guys how this boss operates here, like I said, I'm not going to try and be giving you guys a guide on the first day stuff comes out, because I still don't know everything I need to know about it myself. But I am going to go ahead and use Dancer Elizabeth here on the team. Even though she isn't benefiting from any leadership skill, I'm just going to use her so I can show you guys a run. And then we're going to use Kyo as our main damage dealer and our main shield shredder. But like I said, Mai is also really good for shield shred, as we all know. And Dancer Elizabeth, as I mentioned previously, is also going to be really good on the shield as well, and is one of the few poison options out there that can do both. So that is why I would prefer to use her, like I've mentioned. But again, you're probably better off just using a proper team that you would normally use, and then relegating a lot of these characters to strikers, because there isn't going to be a whole lot that they can do outside of applying poison. None of them are going to be super good on damage, and really at the end of the day, all you really need is that poison application anyway, and that is really all the role that they have to fulfill. So that is pretty much what I'm looking at here. Let's go ahead and jump into this run, you guys, and we'll take a look at this, and I will give you some thoughts. So keep in mind, this is only the second time I've ever played against this boss, so we'll see how this goes, but I was able to derive quite a bit from that initial interaction I had with him. Now, leading off this fight, there isn't anything that you really need to know from what I've noticed. It seems like it's pretty much what you would come to expect. He's just going to spam through his normal string of skills, and you really can just apply your dot and beat him down until that shield comes down for the first time, but things change drastically after that, so yeah, fair warning to all of you guys, because things only get worse from here. But basically, you approach this the same way that you would normally. Like I said, if you have a striker that applies whatever dot it is that you're needing in whatever difficulty, that's definitely going to treat you pretty well. Otherwise, you can just use a designated character such as what I'm doing here with Elizabeth in order to apply poison, and then swap into whatever character you're using to knock that shield down. But really the biggest thing that I've noticed here with him as far as why he would be annoying is this right here. So that ground that you see, that fog or that smoke or that aura, whatever you want to call it, on the ground around him, that seems to be permanent whether his shield is up or down, so it will eventually dissipate. But while it is there, it is very annoying, because basically what it does is it does two things. It's going to be doing damage over time to you by applying darkness, but it is also going to stagger you. So you basically just need to do what I'm trying to do here and lure him away from it, because if you do not, he will drop his shield while he's still in it, and then you're still just waiting for it to disappear, which does hurt your overall damage when his shield is down. So really my recommendation is try to lure him away from it, stand off in a corner away from it, and he'll follow over. But basically from there, you just got to keep rinsing and repeating. You want to apply the dot, and then you just want to try to apply as much damage pressure as possible. That's why I prefer to just use a usual team of characters such as BS or SS, or just whatever strong characters you might have, and just use your poison characters as your strikers, because honestly doing it the way I'm doing it now is doable. It definitely works, but the problem is I would almost think that at this point, being that you're just going to be swapping in and out anyway, and again, none of these poison characters are going to be ideal, although you will notice that this dancer Elizabeth, as you saw there, does really good shield shred. I could easily keep her in there, but in the interest of doing as much damage as possible, I'm trying to just swap her in and out. That's why I think strikers are probably the way to go with this stuff if you have the right characters available, but it always comes down to what you have on your roster. But basically though, I know a lot of people have been complaining that this character feels cheap, he feels really tough, or whatever the case may be, and that's going to come down to your own personal experience with whatever characters you have. Definitely, for me, it's going to be a lot easier having the characters that I have, comparatively speaking to others, but I don't find him to be necessarily overly cheap. I think it's more so that you just got to know what you're working with him, because he does have very different animations and very different skills from Rugal, and it's just going to take a lot of getting used to. Right now, in the few interactions I've had with him, I don't notice him being anything overly cheap, and it's looking like we definitely shattered our last score here, and we're going to do, it looks like probably 500 million. Oh, he's in his aura. That's not good. Yeah, we're not going to be able to do much here, so we'll just tap out. All right, so we'll go back. We'll go ahead and go back to the home screen there, but as you guys can see, we did really good there. That's enough for a 1 key, so not too shabby. And there you go, guys. So that just gives you a little bit of a sample of what you're in for with the expert difficulty, at least. But as I said, throughout the week here, we are going to be doing plenty of coverage of this new guild raid mode, and we'll be going into each one of these difficulties and giving you guys different tips and tricks as I gather more intel and I learn more about it myself. But as far as just my first an hour or two worth of impressions, so far I don't see anything that is anything too scary. I think that while some people might find this to be overly difficult or cheap, it really just comes down to gathering your thoughts and getting to a place where you know what you're looking at here, because I really don't think it's anything overly difficult. And when it comes to the Lunatic difficulty with the shock damage, we'll go ahead and cover that later whenever I am able to do it hands-on. However, what I did notice as far as what you will need, I will show you guys here. What I'm thinking is probably something along the lines of, and these are just some shock options for you guys, things that you can use, but like I said, I prefer the striker approach, I think, as long as you have the characters to make it work. So I'm thinking a team like this is probably going to be something that you could get to a 1 key on, and I've seen Steven do it already with a team similar to this, so I think that it's definitely doable on a 1 key for Lunatic, for shock. it's going to just come down to whether or not you have gotten yourself to a point where you know this character's movements in and out and have learned through muscle memory and all these other things how he performs, and that'll just take time. So I'm going to wait and see on that, and we'll talk more about this difficulty later on whenever I'm actually able to play it myself. But for now, I think that the story is probably going to remain the same. You can use these different shock characters, of which there are definitely some very top tier options, such as your Boss Syndrome Geese, and of course Eileen, and then you can use Orochi Leona, so on and so forth. But for now, I do think that the striker approach is the best bet, again, if you have the right characters to make it work. So that is my initial thoughts on this, you guys. Definitely let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this new boss. Like I said, later on this week we will be doing guides for each one of these major difficulties here, and we're giving you guys some more tips and advice as I learn it myself. But that is going to be the coverage for the new Guild Raid. Next up, we're going to take a look at some footage from over the weekend, because I did decide to go in on the SS banner one more time. I just went ahead and got one of the 1 token packages so that I could go ahead and get to the pity for the cards, because I was so close, because I wanted to finish the Gears of Fate set. So we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at that footage, because that ended up being a little bit more interesting than I thought it would be. I thought that it would just be a situation where I was doing 2 multis on the cards to get to the pity, but being that we had that 1 fighter multi, things got a little bit interesting. So we'll go ahead, we'll jump into that, and I will see you guys on the other side. And so, as I had mentioned, this footage is going to be from the weekend, and if you guys are not a part of my Discord, then I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of how this went, because I did talk to everybody about how this went on Discord, and yeah, it was pretty fun. But basically, I decided to go back in here because I am 2 multis away from the pity for the cards, and I wanted to finish the Gears of Fate set, so I went ahead and got a $9.99 pack. So our total investment on the SS banner was only about $30 total, which was really, really good, I think, considering the fact that we now have our Kyo, of course, at Awakening level 5. We have all of the different cards, and as you see here, we have a Awakening level 2 Iori. So very cool that we got this Iori memory. We had been looking for Iori memories over the course of the past couple of weeks. Definitely did not expect that, but I was very happy and thankful to see it happen. Now, as far as the cards go, we had the 1 token for the cards, and then of course I was going to have to use 600 rubies in order to finish up the pity, which to me, to finish the Gears of Fate set, was worth it. Now, again, for those of you who have not been paying attention to our pulls on the SS banners, basically we have 2 of the 3 cards. We have an extra copy of, I believe, the 3rd card, but we were looking for the first one. So really what we were doing here is just looking for either the first card or looking to go to pity so that we could pick it. So that's pretty much what it came down to, was this last multi here in order to get to that pity. So I decided, again, being that it was finishing up the set guaranteed, it was worth 600 rubies. I have considered potentially maybe going back into the fighters and using rubies in order to go to pity, being that I'm over halfway there at this point. But at the same time, I don't necessarily think that it is worth just A3ing my Iori in order to do that, so I'm probably not going to. You guys can let me know in the comment section if you think I should, but like I've said in the past, with the anniversary coming up very soon, it's going to take quite a bit to get me to spend. But yeah, guys, so now we have the Gears of Fate set. It's, like I said in the past, going to pretty much be the exact same as City of Darkness as far as how it performs, but I just wanted to have that second set because I do use City of Darkness quite a bit, especially in Immortals. So that is going to be today's video, you guys. I hope you found it informative. We'll be doing plenty of coverage of the newest guild raid over the course of the next few days. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about it. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Continue.